The Vizio V5 Series 2021 is an entry-level 4K TV that replaces the Vizio V Series from 2020. It offers okay overall performance and, as expected from an entry-level model, it's pretty limited on extra features. How does the TV stack up against other models in this price range? Is it worth it if you're on a budget? Hey, I'm Alex, a tester at Ratings.com, where we help you find the best products for your needs. We bought and tested the 65-inch model, but it's also available in 43, 50, 55, 58, 70, and 75 inches as well. We expect those other sizes to perform similarly. The V5 series is a basic TV with a simple design. It's made entirely out of plastic, and even though the bezels are thicker than other TVs, they're not too distracting. The back is made of two sections, one with the inputs and the other with the plastic holding the panel. Unfortunately, there's no cable management. The stand consists of two V-shaped feet that are nearly as wide as the TV itself. You can't move them into different positions. The feet raise the screen about 3 inches off the table, so you can place a soundbar in front without blocking the screen. Overall, our unit of the V5 series has okay build quality. It's made entirely out of solid plastic, but there's a bit of flex on the logo near the inputs. The TV wobbles a bit on the stand, but it's not too bad. Overall, there's nothing premium about it, but nothing that's noticeably bad either. Before moving on, we'll have one quick look at the inputs. There are 3 HDMI inputs and a USB input on the right side. Composite inputs and outputs, as well as Ethernet, antenna, and optical connections are on the back. This TV comes with the same SmartCast system as any other Vizio TV. It's easy to use, but it can feel laggy at times. There isn't an app store, so you can only have access to the apps that come pre-installed, but there are a bunch included. You can also cast anything you want from your phone through Google Chromecast or Apple AirPlay. Vizio released a new remote in 2021 that comes with a built-in mic for voice control. You can ask it to change inputs and open settings, but you can't change settings or search the specific content in apps. There are also shortcut buttons to popular streaming apps, saving you the time to navigate the menu to open them. Before we deep dive into our test results, let's talk about how this TV performs overall. It performs best in dark rooms because it has a high native contrast ratio to display deep blacks. It also has a fantastic black uniformity, so there's minimal blooming around bright objects. Unfortunately, there's no local dimming feature to improve picture quality in dark scenes. In bright rooms, the V5 isn't the best. It has good reflection handling if you have a few lights around, but it doesn't get bright enough to fight a ton of glare. If you plan on watching cable TV shows or sports, it isn't the best at upscaling lower resolution 480p and 720p content. It also doesn't have a motion interpolation feature for lower frame rate content. Cable TV will still look good, but it's just not as good as other 4K TVs. As for gaming, it's decent. It doesn't have any gaming features like VRR support, and it's limited to a 60Hz panel. However, it still has low input lag and a quick response time for a responsive gaming experience. For PC gamers, it also displays 1440p signals through a custom resolution. With our quick overview out of the way, let's dive into the details. Let's start with the contrast, which is one of the most important aspects for picture quality, especially in a dark room. The V5 series has a VA panel known for their excellent contrast, and this TV is no exception. It displays deep and uniform blacks, so picture quality is good when you're watching content in a dark room, like a movie. As mentioned, there's no local dimming feature to improve the contrast. If you want to watch content in HDR or high dynamic range, this is where the TV falls short. It supports all common formats of HDR, including HDR10+ and Dolby Vision, but that doesn't mean it delivers a good HDR experience. It can't display a wide color gamut and has low HDR peak brightness, so it can't display the colors needed and can't make the highlights stand out how the creator intended. This performance is normal for an entry-level option, so it's better to just watch stuff in SDR. For watching TV shows and sports, we've already talked about how glare might be an issue in a really bright room, so it's best to avoid placing it in a room with strong light sources or windows with direct sunlight. If you watch cable TV, it's important that the TV upscales lower resolution content well. Our upscaling tests are subjective as there isn't a real objective way to measure it. Vizios tend to have some artifacts with 480p content like DVDs and 720p content like cable boxes. You might not notice a big difference if you sit far, but it can be more noticeable if you sit close. Cable content still looks decent, it's just not as good as other 4K TVs available. Unfortunately, the V5 series isn't a good choice for wide seating arrangements because it has a narrow viewing angle. Because it has a VA panel, the image starts to look darker as soon as you move off center, so it's not ideal for watching shows or the big game with a large group of people. One plus of this TV is the excellent color accuracy before any sort of calibration. Our unit has accurate colors right out of the box, so calibrating it only improved a few elements like the gamma, which defines the brightness of grays. Calibration can be expensive, and it's unlikely you'll need to calibrate it to enjoy an accurate image. However, keep in mind that accuracy can vary between units. We've already talked about how the TV doesn't have many gaming features, like FreeSync support that the higher-end M7 series has, so you might notice some screen tearing in games. It also doesn't have black frame insertion or motion interpolation features that aim to improve the appearance of motion. It has a decent response time, which is the amount of time it takes for the pixels to change from one color to the next, and it affects the motion. However, there's overshoot and darker transitions, which leads to inverse ghosting and blur trail, and you might even notice some black smear in dark scenes. This doesn't only affect gaming, but also impacts any content with fast-moving objects, which could get distracting. If you want to use it for PC gaming, it's important to display proper Chroma 444, which is a type of image encoding that improves text clarity when using it as a PC. Luckily, it displays Chroma 444 at any of its supported resolutions like 1080p, 1440p, and 4K up to 60 Hz. This is great if you want to use it as a PC monitor. Last thing we're going to look at is the uniformity, but before we get into the details, keep in mind that uniformity can vary between units. In terms of gray uniformity, it's okay, but the screen looks darker around the edges. This can be noticeable with areas of solid colors, like when you're using it as a PC monitor. There's also dirty screen effect in the center, which could get distracting in sports. As far as the black uniformity, it's fantastic, as there's minimal blooming around bright objects. However, because it doesn't have local dimming, blacks can look closer to gray. As we've already talked about, there isn't really any extra features. It removes judder from 24p sources like Blu-ray players and native apps, which helps with the appearance of motion in movies, but it can't remove content from 60 Hz sources. We looked at the inputs this TV has at the beginning of the video, and we're quickly going to talk about what it supports. It supports most common HDR formats like HDR10+ and Dolby Vision, so you won't have to worry about the format your HDR content is in before watching it. All three HDMI inputs are HDMI 2.0, so it supports 4K gaming up to 60 FPS from either the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, but it can't do any other higher frame rates because it would require HDMI 2.1. It even has a composite input, which is great if you have old gaming consoles like a PS2. HDMI 1 serves as the eARC input, so you can pass uncompressed Dolby Atmos or DTS:X audio to a compatible receiver using a single cable. So if all your devices are connected to the TV, it can still send that audio to a receiver so you can get the best sound experience possible. It also supports both Dolby Digital and DTS formats over ARC, and optical connections if your receiver doesn't support eARC. If you don't plan on getting a receiver or a dedicated surround sound setup, then you want at least decent sound coming from the speakers. Like most TVs, the sound quality is nothing special, and even if it's well balanced, it's not very loud and doesn't produce any bass. All this to say, if you want the best sound experience, get a soundbar or a receiver. All in all, the Vizio V5 Series 2021 is an okay overall TV that does its job. It produces deep blacks for darkroom viewing and has good reflection handling, but it doesn't get bright in SDR or HDR to combat glare. It's limited on extra features, which is normal for an entry-level TV, and you'll have to spend more money for those extra perks like VRR. It's a TV that won't cost you much, but there are other cheap options out there with better upscaling of lower resolution content. The Vizio V5 Series 2021 replaced the V Series 2020, and both TVs are very similar overall. The main difference is that the 2021 model comes with a remote that has voice control, which the 2021 model does not, so it's a bit easier to navigate the user interface. The 2021 models improves a bit in a few other areas like response time, contrast, and brightness, but it's not a significant difference that you're going to want to upgrade your 2020 model to the latest one. The Hisense U6G is an entry-level model that isn't exactly in the same price range as the Vizio, but for a bit more, you can get a much better TV and more features. The Hisense has full array local dimming, motion interpolation, and BFI features, all of which the Vizio doesn't have. The Hisense also has better reflection handling and it gets brighter, so it's a better choice for well-lit rooms. Overall, the Hisense is a nice upgrade if you're willing to spend a bit more. So that's it. You can check out all the measurements on our website. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel. You can become an insider on the website for early access to our latest results. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.